Dear students, welcome to this English session. In the last class, we dealt with some of the serious problems faced by Stephen Hawking in his life. At the age of 21, he contracted a very serious illness, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. After the diagnosis of that disease, he lost his will to live. We also learned how he met Jane Wilde. We also learned how Jane Wilde helped this man overcome that state of dejection or state of despair. They got married and he started doing his PhD at Caius. From there, his reputation as second Einstein began. From there, his reputation as another genius began. Now we move on to the last part of the profile, Quest for a Theory of Everything by Kitty Gale Ferguson. Listen to this reading. In 1980, a practical need for funds launched him into a new enterprise that was to have a far-reaching impact on the Hawkings and others all over the world. He thought of writing a book about the universe, about the most interesting questions that had made him want to study cosmology and quantum theory. Where did the universe come from? Is the universe infinite or does it have any boundaries? Will it come to an end? If so, how? Is there a complete theory of the universe and everything in it? Is there a beginning of time? Could time run back? The book begins by rewinding the great theories of the cosmos from Newton to Einstein. He wrote the book to make science understandable to non-scientists. In 1980, he had a real need for funds, a real need for money. That made him launch a new enterprise. That made him start a new project. The project was to write a book. His intention was to make science understandable even to non-scientists. There were so many striking, interesting questions that had made him want to study cosmology and quantum theory. Cosmology means the branch of astrophysics which deals with the origin and evolution of universe. It also deals with the structure of universe. Quantum theory is a theory propounded by Max Planck, which studies about physical phenomena at nanoscopic scales, at microscopic scales. Some of those interesting questions which had made him study cosmology and quantum theory were: where did the universe come from? Is the universe infinite or does it have any boundaries? Will it come to an end? If so, how? Is there a complete theory of the universe which can satisfactorily explain everything in the universe? Is there a beginning of time? Does time run back? These were some of the striking, interesting questions that had made him want to study cosmology and quantum theory, and he tried to find out answers to some of these questions in his book. You are familiar with that famous book written by Stephen Hawking. The title of that book is A Brief History of Time. The book begins by rewinding or going back to the great theories of cosmos, starting from Isaac Newton to Albert Einstein. I have already told you his intention was to make science understandable to non-scientists. Now I move on to the next two paragraphs in this profile. Listen to this reading. He completed the first draft in 1984. While the revision process was going on, he made a trip to Switzerland. There he was down with pneumonia and was left on a life support system. Doctors gave a choice as to whether a tracheotomy operation which would remove his windpipe should be conducted or not. It might save his life, but afterwards he would never again be able to speak or make a vocal sound. With grave misgivings, Jane consented. The future looked very bleak, Jane remarked. Hawking could no longer breathe through his mouth and nose, but only through a permanent opening made in his throat. After many weeks of intensive care, he went home to join Jane and his 3 children. He was still too weak and ill to continue his research. Walt Wolters, a computer expert in California, sent him a program he had developed called the Equalizer, which allowed Hawking to select words from the screen. He completed the first draft of his book, A Brief History of Time, in the year 1984. Draft means a preliminary version of a piece of writing. While the revision process was going on, he made a trip to Switzerland. But unfortunately, in Switzerland, he was down with pneumonia. His condition was so serious and he was on a life support system. That means he was on a ventilator. Doctors gave a choice whether to conduct a tracheotomy surgery to remove his windpipe or not. If tracheotomy surgery was conducted, probably he could be saved. But his windpipe would be removed and he would not be able to breathe through his nose and mouth again. Tracheotomy is a surgery in which a surgical incision is made on your throat. The windpipe will be removed and a permanent opening will be made on the throat. And through that permanent opening, you have to breathe. Finally, with grave misgivings, with serious doubts, Jane consented. Jane gave the permission to conduct tracheotomy surgery, to carry out tracheotomy surgery in him. His windpipe was removed, but fortunately they could save the life of Stephen Hawking. The future looked bleak. Jane remarked, the future looked hopeless and unpromising because he could no longer breathe through his nose and mouth. A permanent opening was made in his throat and he started breathing through that permanent opening made in his throat. He was too weak and ill to continue his work. But a computer expert from California, Walt Wolters, sent him a program called Equalizer. With the help of that program called Equalizer, he started his work. He would be able to select a few words from the screen. Now I move on to the next paragraph. Listen to this reading. He thought he would be unable to finish his book. With the support of his student Brian Witt, A Brief History of Time was published in 1988. September 2005 saw the release of an abridged version of the original book. This version was updated to address the new issues that had arisen due to further scientific developments. Stephen Hawking thought that he would be unable to finish his work. But with the help of one of his students, Brian Witt, he was able to complete his work, and in the year 1988, he was able to publish his book, A Brief History of Time. In 1995, an abridged version of this book was released. In 2005, an updated version of this book was released in order to address the various issues arisen due to the recent developments in the field of science and technology. Now I move on to the next paragraph. One will encounter a multitude of paradoxes in the book. In science and with people, things are often not what they seem, and pieces that ought to fit together refuse to do so. You will learn that beginnings may be endings, cruel circumstances can lead to happiness, or the fame and success may not. Two great scientific theories taken together seem to give us nonsense. Empty space isn't empty, black holes aren't black, and a man whose appearance inspires shock and pity takes us laughing to where the boundaries of time and space ought to be, but are not. Most of the students find this paragraph a little bit difficult. In this paragraph, we will come across a large number of paradoxes, a multitude of paradoxes. One will encounter a multitude of paradoxes in this paragraph. Encounter means face. Multitude means a large number of. one will face a large number of paradoxes in this paragraph. What do you mean by paradox? Paradox means a self-contradictory statement. If it is used in poetry, it can be considered as a figure of speech. Some of you might have heard about a very famous 16th century poet, John Donne. He has written a beautiful sonnet. The title of the sonnet is Death Be Not Proud. In that sonnet, we come across a few striking lines. One short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die. Paradox is a self-contradictory statement. Even though it is self-contradictory, it communicates a lot of meaning. That sonnet emphasizes a life after death. One short sleep past. Here it refers to death. After death, the poet says, we will wake eternally. After your death, there will be a life, and in that life, there is no death. And death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die. How can death die? It is a self-contradictory statement. At the same time, it communicates a lot of meaning. In this paragraph also, we come across so many paradoxes. The author says, in science and with people, things are not often what they seem. Just think about a phenomenon called mirage. It is due to optical illusion. It is due to refraction of light. In desert or on a hot road, there appears to be a sheet of water. In desert, you think that there is oasis in front of you. But when you reach there, you find that there is no oasis. You will just find vast ocean of sand. And on hot road, you will find a sheet of water, but when you reach there, you do not find any water there. This is mirage. It is a phenomenon which is due to refraction of light or optical illusion. So in science, things are not often what they appear to be, what they seem. This is also the same case with people. We find so many people very innocent, decent, etc. But sooner or later, we will find that those people are not innocent or decent. And there is a beautiful expression in English. Innocent faces are always deceptive. They are always misleading. We find certain people innocent, but in actual life, they may not be innocent. In science and with people, things are often not what they seem. We think that certain things should fit together, but in real life, they do not. We often find husbands and wives, and we think that they are perfect couples. But in real life, the relationship may not be that much cordial, that much warm or friendly. Usually, people having similar tastes, similar interests, they form groups, circles, etc. There is an affinity among people having similar tastes and interests. But in science, we all know that like poles repel and unlike poles attract. Like poles do not fit together. This is another example. Then so many such paradoxes can be found in that paragraph. Beginnings may be endings. We all know about it. We studied all those things in our high school social science classes. The beginning of an empire is the end of another empire. The rise of one dynasty is the fall of another dynasty. The rise of one political party marks the fall of another political party. Beginnings may be endings. Cruel circumstances may lead to happiness. Just think about another example. A serial killer. He is caught and sentenced to death. He is executed or he is hanged. The hanging of a person, the execution of a person is a cruel circumstance. but it gives happiness especially to the relatives of the victims. That means the relatives of those people who are killed by the serial killer might feel happiness at the execution of that serial killer, at the hanging of that serial killer. Cruel circumstances may lead to happiness. At the same time, success and fame may not bring happiness. For example, a cricketer, he has scored a century. There is success for him, there is fame for him, but unfortunately the team loses. So success and fame may not bring happiness. Then he says about two great scientific theories. The two great scientific theories mentioned here are Albert Einstein's The General Theory of Relativity and Max Planck's Quantum Theory. These two theories are great theories, wonderful theories, but when we combine these two theories together, they will bring nothing but nonsense. What is the reason? Because the scales used in these two theories are different. In quantum theory, the scale used is nanoscopic scale. Everything is measured in small scales. Whereas in theory of relativity, the scale used is macroscopic scale. Everything is measured in large scale. So when we combine these two theories, it will bring out nothing but nonsense. Black holes are in black, empty spaces are not empty. Black hole should be black and empty space should be empty. The author says black holes are not black. Black hole actually is a star with a strong gravitational force, and because of this strong gravitational force, nothing can escape from it. That star also emits light, but even light cannot escape from the gravitational force from the gravitational pull of that star. Even light could be dragged back before it could be so far. So the star emits light, it is not black. For a distant observer, it looks dimmer and redder, but it emits light, it is not black. So black holes aren't black. Empty spaces are not empty. No space can be empty. If something is empty, if something is vacuum, science students know energy will flow into that vacuum, energy will flow into that empty space, and this energy is called vacuum energy. So empty space is not empty. Then the last expression, paradoxical statement. A man whose appearance inspires shock and pity. Who is that man? Stephen Hawking. His appearance inspires shock and pity. People would be shocked, people would be sympathetic when they looked at this man. But the same man has been successful in taking us to the boundaries of time and space. The boundaries are not specific, they are not finite. People think that there is the boundary, but actually it is not the boundary. So the expression, the boundaries of time and space that ought to be and are not. Now I move on to the last part of the profile, Quest for a Theory of Everything by Kitty Gale Ferguson. Listen to this reading. It is of course a miracle that Hawking has been able to achieve everything he has, that he is still alive. However, when you experience his intelligence and humor, you begin to take his unusual mode of communication and his obviously catastrophic physical problems no more seriously than he seems to himself. That is exactly the way he wants it. He chooses to ignore the difficulty and he expects others to adopt the same attitude. Stephen Hawking has overcome his crippling disease to become the supernova of world physics. It is a miracle. It is a wonder that such a man with so many crippling disabilities has overcome all those problems and has become the supernova of physics. He did not take his disease seriously. He did not take his catastrophic physical problems seriously. He did not take his unusual mode of communication seriously. He ignored all these problems and he wanted others to adopt the same attitude. Ignore the difficulties, ignore the problems that you face in your life. Ignore all the disabilities, all the obstacles, all the impediments that you come across in your life. Try your level best to overcome these problems. When we experience his intelligence, his humor, we will also start ignoring his disabilities, his unusual mode of communication, his catastrophic physical problems, etc. If such a person has overcome all his physical problems, all the adversities that he faced in his life to become the supernova of physics, the question is, why can't we? We are blessed with tremendous potential. We are blessed with so many beautiful ideas, confidence, abilities, etc., etc. Why can't we become successful human beings? And that can be taken as the essence of the chapter Quest for a Theory of Everything by Kitty Gale Ferguson. Now we move on to the questions that may come in your final examination, that may come in your examination. Some of the important questions that we can expect from this chapter are, first one, you will be asked to prepare a profile of a famous personality. If you are asked to prepare a profile, you have to keep certain points in your view. The most important points that you have to keep in your mind are, the first one, you have to write about his birth, his childhood, his parents, his family background, his early schooling, his higher studies, his personality traits, his achievements, the various awards that he has won. And if that person is no more, you can also write about the death of that person. So these are the important points that you have to incorporate in your answer, in your profile, if you are asked to prepare a profile. Fortunately, in your question paper, there will be hints. And you have to arrange all those hints in a systematic manner. You have to arrange everything in a logically coherent way. You can score 10% marks for that question. The next question that may come in your examination is, prepare a set of 5 questions to interview a famous person and the possible responses. 2 types of questions can be expected here. The first one, just prepare a set of 5 questions. You need not prepare the responses. And the second type is, prepare a set of 5 questions and the likely responses and the possible responses. When you frame questions, you have to keep in your view certain points. All the questions should not be WH questions or yes or no questions. You can ask WH questions or yes or no questions, but those WH questions should be preceded by certain statements. These statements will definitely make your interview more lively. And if you ask yes or no questions, those questions should be followed by certain statements. You have to elicit more information from the interviewee, not just the response yes or no. So these are some of the things that you have to keep in your view when you prepare a set of questions to interview an eminent personality and the possible responses. Another question, an essay or a speech on the topic, adversities should make a man better, not bitter. Just go through the profile, find out how these adversities made Stephen Hawking a better human being and did not make him bitter. How the adversities helped him to scale heights. How the adversities helped him to become the supernova of physics. These are some of the questions that may come in your examination. That's all for the day. Thank you.